Caitlin Clark, almost unanimous, -1. Angel Reese received one first place vote for Rookie of the Year.
Stupid decision because it compromises what your ultimate goal is.
A WNBA legend has been caught red-handed, scheming against Caitlin Clark in the Rookie of the Year race. Until today, no one had any idea which veteran player went out of her way to bribe a journalist to vote against Clark, but now she's been exposed with solid proof. And here's the kicker. You might be disappointed because chances are you've been cheering her on all season, thinking she's a true icon. Meanwhile, she's been secretly seething with jealousy.
So we've got somebody out there who is casting votes for Angel Reese. I say somebody. I mean, I suppose it could have been one person who voted for Angel Reese for Rookie of the Year and another person who voted for Angel for MVP.
Why? Because Clark stole all the spotlight in just one season, something that took this legend years to build. Need a hint? The same day Caitlin Clark secured Rookie of the Year, this so-called legend claimed the biggest WNBA title of the year. Got a name in mind? If you think you figured it out, brace yourself. This story goes way deeper than just a single bad vote.
That somebody is trolling Angel Reese. Because these are sports people, supposedly. These are members of the media. These are people who write about sports, who broadcast about sports.
And believe me, up until now, you've only been fed the basic stats. Caitlin Clark averaged a jaw-dropping 19.2 points per game, dished out 8.4 assists like she was handing out candy, and grabbed 5.7 rebounds just for good measure. Sure, that sounds impressive, but that's just scratching the surface. What's even crazier? Despite Clark dominating almost every rookie stat you can think of, she still didn't receive a unanimous Rookie of the Year vote.
You were making the point, do you want to promote the league or not? And people like Andrea and others were resistant to that playing a role in somebody making the roster.
Nope. Instead of every single vote going to the obvious choice, one solitary vote went to Chicago Sky rookie Angel Reese. And this wasn't just some harmless fluke. This was the kind of rogue move that sent shockwaves through the league, leaving fans scratching their heads and analysts scrambling to explain it. Let's be real, if there was ever a rookie who deserved a unanimous win, it was Caitlin Clark. So, why didn't she get it? What's the story behind that one oddball vote?
Stephen A., I could actually argue that it hurts the game more if they had given her a roster spot over someone more deserving.
Turns out, when the dust settled, Caitlin Clark grabbed 66 out of 67 votes for Rookie of the Year, ROTY. The votes came from a mix of 43 national sports writers and 24 local journalists across various WNBA markets. That's a lot of people agreeing on something. So, how does one stray vote sneak in? This wasn't just someone trying to be a rebel or have a different take. This vote was a sucker punch aimed at tarnishing Clark's perfect season. A calculated move to ensure her record wouldn't be spotless. That's when things get interesting. This wasn't just about Angel Reese getting a random nod. Someone was trying to sabotage Clark's perfect ROTY sweep. But who? Not Cheryl Swoops. She doesn't even have voting authority here, so let's scratch that theory. The real twist came when it was revealed that the rogue vote came from journalist Cameron Duncan, and suddenly everyone started asking the same question. Why Reese? Sure, Reese had decent stats, but she wasn't even close to Clark's record-breaking season. So why would Duncan cast his vote for her? Well, rumor has it this wasn't Duncan acting alone. Word on the street is that WNBA superstar Aja Wilson had something to do with it. That's right, the same Aja Wilson who has been dominating the league and collecting trophies left and right. But why would a star like Wilson get involved in something as petty as a single ROTY vote? Here's where it gets wild. In 2024, Aja Wilson became the first player since Cynthia Cooper in 1997 to unanimously win the MVP award, receiving all 67 votes, every single one. It was a massive achievement, making her the only player in modern WNBA history to pull off a unanimous MVP.
You know, the WNBA continues to kill the golden goose. Now, I must clarify something. A lot of you are hitting me up with, why hasn't the WNBA talked about their Rookie of the Year award since Caitlin Clark, it's been released, is the Rookie of the Year? Well, they haven't announced any awards.
But then along came Caitlin Clark, rising through the ranks and threatening to outshine A'ja Wilson's moment of glory. Suddenly, Wilson wasn't about to let some rookie waltz in and take away the one thing that set her apart, a perfect MVP record. When Clark started racking up ROTY votes, Wilson allegedly stepped in, determined to ensure that Clark wouldn't achieve something she never did, a unanimous Rookie of the Year win. This is where things go from petty to full-blown drama. Duncan's vote for Angel Reese wasn't a random act. It was orchestrated. Sources suggest that Wilson nudged Duncan into voting for Reese, not because Reese was more deserving, she wasn't even close, but purely to block Clark's unanimous win. This was a power play, plain and simple. Wilson wanted to keep Clark from achieving a perfect ROTY sweep, preventing her from being the only player with that kind of flawless record. It wasn't about Clark being an immediate threat. It was about Clark potentially overshadowing Wilson's legacy down the line. So Wilson made her move, using Duncan as the pawn in this calculated game to preserve her place at the top.
Why don't you like Angel Reese? Why don't you like the black people? You black. Why don't, they made it a race thing. They made it you can't stand her thing. They made it all this stuff. And I'm making it a basketball thing. As a former player, as a former coach, as a person who just got eyes to see, Angel Reese was not going to be Rookie of the Year. There really wasn't a contest.
As for Angel Reese in all of this, she was just caught in the crossfire, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her stats were solid but nowhere near Rookie of the Year material, but she was the perfect distraction. Someone whose name would keep people debating long enough for Wilson to walk away clean. Reese got some unearned attention, Duncan took the heat for the rogue vote, and Wilson, she got to sit back, pretending she had nothing to do with it, until now. Now, everyone's connecting the dots, and Wilson's little scheme is unraveling for the entire league to see. Meanwhile, you've got people like Molly chiming in, claiming players like Clark aren't even talented enough to be making accusations in the first place. Really? Clark, who's dropping nearly 20 points per game, suddenly isn't good enough to call out shady business? Sure, Molly. Let's just pretend stats don't matter when it's convenient. And if you thought that was the end, think again. This wasn't just about Clark missing a unanimous vote. It was a power move meant to send a message. Caitlin Clark may be the hottest name in the WNBA right now, but Wilson's still the queen. Anyone trying to step on her turf will quickly find out who's really running the show. Clark's Rookie of the Year win may have a blemish thanks to one rogue vote, but that vote exposed a whole new level of league politics and ego battles. The real question now is, if someone like AJ Wilson can manipulate an award with just a whisper to a journalist, what else is going on behind the scenes? Clark might not be losing sleep over it, but the fans are outraged, and the league's credibility just took a serious hit.
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have fucked this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried.
What's worse is that the WNBA's response to this entire mess was almost non-existent. No official statements, no investigations, just silence. It's as if the league is hoping the storm will blow over and everyone will forget. But the fans won't forget, and neither will Caitlin Clark. When a unanimous Rookie of the Year win is stolen in plain sight, it's not just one player who loses. The entire sport suffers. As for A'ja Wilson, sure, she may have kept her perfect MVP record intact. But if the full truth ever comes to light, her reputation might not escape unscathed. At first glance, you probably thought Wilson was just being competitive, right? She's fought her way to the top, faced struggles, and knows what it's like to fight for recognition. But no, this isn't just about rivalry or jealousy. This situation has a much uglier undertone: racism. In a league where race and power dynamics often simmer just below the surface, this entire ordeal is a stark reminder that it's not just competition on the court that players like Clark have to deal with. It's off-court manipulation and deeper issues like racism. It's not just a rivalry between two top athletes. It's a spotlight on the ugly layers of favoritism and politics that, when unchecked, can tarnish the integrity of the entire sport.
She needs to be on a better team.
With the WNBA season ending for many teams, there are already so many players heading overseas to play during the off-season.
ESPN is upset about Caitlin Clark's new European contract, acting as if they have any say in her choices. They don't. Clark's made her decision and isn't looking back, no matter how much they complain or plead. Why? Because Clark respects herself and has more sense than the WNBA's leadership. She knows her worth and won't stay in a league that can't even protect its top players. Why should she?
For the first time ever, they have a superstar in this league that not only has the ability to draw a mainstream audience, she also has the ability to play actual basketball.
She's been roughed up by players, ignored by refs, and targeted by haters who couldn't stand the fact that she was single-handedly keeping this joke of a league afloat.
There's going to be a significant amount of less fans watching the WNBA now that Caitlin is no longer in the picture.
Now that Caitlin Clark has realized she's worth more than being the WNBA's beaten-up cash cow, everyone's losing their minds. Sorry, ESPN, your golden goose is gone, and all you've got left is a nest of missed opportunities. Clark just dropped a bombshell on the WNBA, and it's almost funny how ESPN suddenly pretends to care now that she's choosing Europe. She's done with the WNBA's circus act and is heading overseas, leaving behind broken dreams and shattered egos. After carrying the league all season, enduring brutal fouls, and getting body checked like she was in a hockey game, she's finally had enough. And honestly, I don't blame her one bit.
I think she talks a lot of and she gets a lot of back. So she deserves everything she gets because she gives it as good as she gets. She's just not built for the physicality of this league.
This isn't just any player making a career move. Remember her final game against the Connecticut Sun? She dropped 29 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. A one-woman show, while her teammates fumbled around, missing open shots and making mistakes that would embarrass a high school team. And what did the WNBA do? They let the refs treat her like a punching bag, standing by and doing nothing. Fans didn't come to watch a UFC